Narcissistic Mother, Enabler Father. My name is Jared Mello, the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect and the Shepherd of Black Sheep. This is a very common dynamic that a lot of people have experience with, and it's one version of a dysfunctional family. Let's go over what it looks like. First, we have the narcissistic mother. She can be either overt or covert in her presentation, and she will often be very controlling, critical, belittling, demanding, and she has no problems telling other people when she isn't happy with them or when they're doing something wrong in her opinion. Image will be very important to her. Maybe it has to do with money and status, maybe it has to do with physical appearance of her and the kids, maybe it has to do with social standing in the community. But she cares a lot about how the outside world will perceive them. And she has found a way to get what she wants in this family dynamic. And she has go-to manipulation tactics to get her way. Maybe she will throw a temper tantrum and get really angry when she doesn't get her way, and the enabler father gives in. Maybe the narcissistic mother will use a silent treatment to punish, manipulate, and control. Or maybe she will threaten to end the relationship. But whatever it is, it does wind up working, and the narcissistic mother gets her way. And as time goes on, she may only need to threaten to do some of those things, and she will still get her way. The enabler father in this situation, he is both a victim and an enabler of the narcissistic mother's abuse. He is in a trauma bond, and his problem is he really struggles to stand up to the narcissistic mother. He consistently caves in, and his boundaries are weak to non-existent. He will be a people pleaser that probably does not have a good belief in himself. And he does not like conflict, so he would rather avoid conflicts and sweep things under the rug to avoid the narcissistic mother's big emotions and angry temper tantrums or whatever her punishment might be. And this really does do the rest of the family a disservice here. Often the enabler father will run off to addictions, whether it's gambling or alcohol, or maybe it'll even be workaholism. But he does not want to be around, and he kind of abandons a little bit sometimes the kids in this situation. That is not always what happens, but depending on how many kids there are, the situation can look a little bit different. Let's say there's a golden child in the situation. The narcissistic mother will approve of the golden child. Oftentimes it will be a son, and often they can gang up on the enabler father. Now, if there is a black sheep or a scapegoat child, they may form an alliance with the enabler father against the narcissistic mother, and they may commiserate with one another. But when push comes to shove, say a black sheep or a scapegoat tries to stand up to the narcissistic mother, the enabler father will defend and excuse the narcissistic mother's behavior. And he may say things like, "You know how your mother can be. Just tell her you're sorry so that we can get back to normal." And he will say things to avoid conflict and sweep things under the rug just to go back to peace. He'll say, "I just want peace," which will sound like a narcissist and when he says that, but it's really he does not like the conflict and the honest conflict that occurs when you stand up to a narcissistic person. So cowardice also is going to be a big thing in play here. And it sounds harsh, but I speak harshly only to tell people exactly what it is and what it sounds like, because the kids are the big victims of this. Because when the enabler father does not stand up to her and try to protect the kids, they are the ones who get the brunt of the mistreatment as well. But they are all victims, but the enabler father is also an enabler. So it becomes a big issue. But what are you supposed to do if you are the enabler father in this situation? And what he is not doing is modeling a good belief in himself, strong boundaries, being assertive, honest conflict resolution, having a good foundation with the narcissistic mother. He is communicating to the kids, no, you gotta be a people pleaser. You have to avoid conflicts. Her emotions and temper tantrums, you have to give in to them. And that's how you get what you want. And so maybe if one of the children becomes a narcissist, how the enabler father acts and how the narcissistic mother acts, that models to him or her, oh, this is how I get what I want in adulthood. If I throw a temper tantrum, or if I give a silent treatment, or if I threaten to end the relationship, that is how I get my way. But the enabler father can put his foot down and maybe go through the big emotional reactions the narcissistic mother will give, or go through the silent treatments, or let her follow through on her threats to leave the relationship, and that would be a step in the right direction. But the enabler father has to have a plan, because 99 times out of 100, the narcissistic mother is not going to change. She is going to continue to do what she does, and she's going to manipulate, flip the script, play the victim. She's probably going to have smear campaigns ready. She's going to groom the people around them to believe the enabler father is the crazy one, and it can be a massive headache. And these situations can go on for years and years until someone puts their foot down. And that's when things really hit the fan. When somebody puts their foot down, then the narcissistic person, the narcissistic mother in this case, really will not like it. But sometimes these things can appear to be healthy to the outside because the enabler father just never puts his foot down. And when he doesn't put his foot down, things can appear to be peaceful, but they really aren't peaceful. It is really more dishonest harmony and the narcissistic mother just getting her way and knowing how to manipulate and pull the strings. But depending on how many kids are in this situation, there can be triangulation between the narcissistic mother, a golden child, versus the enabler father. Or maybe, like I said before, it can be a black sheep and a scapegoat kind of teamed up with the enabler father against the narcissistic mother. But when push comes to shove, it's up to the enabler father, especially when the kids are young, to set a good example and to try to do something different. He doesn't realize it, but he is in a trauma bond. And the way to break the trauma bond is to break up and go no contact. You have to do so safely, and you have to do so thinking about what's best for the kids too. But almost always what is going to be best for the kids is to protect them from the narcissistic mother. So this is going to require him to have the courage to break out on his own and do his own thing. But he is probably not used to that. He is in a trauma bond after all, and he thinks that he needs her, even though he really doesn't. And when he tries to leave, if he ever does, he'll probably go through withdrawal symptoms, and he might be tempted to go back. But this situation can be an absolute mess, and the kids may wind up resenting the enabler father for not standing up for them more. And he might try to be on their side a little bit, but only to the extent that it doesn't cause the narcissistic mother to have a big emotional reaction or punish him. But at the end of the day, he is not doing good enough standing up to the narcissistic mother because she'll be very critical, belittling, demanding, and always telling the kids they're guilty of something as well, especially if they're not living up to the ideal image that she wants to project onto the world. But again, the narcissistic mother can love bomb, devalue the kids as well. And a lot of it may depend on what role they are. And if it's an only child, that only child may be all the roles at different times. Maybe you'll be the golden child for a while. Maybe then it will turn into the black sheep or the scapegoat, and then back to the golden child. It is really going to depend on how they behave. In a narcissistic family dynamic, where there's a narcissistic parent, love is earned and conditional. You're not going to be loved unless you act in a certain way. And the enabler father, he knows this too. He only gets love if he acts in a certain way, which is what? Giving the narcissistic mother what she wants. But the whole situation can be an absolute mess. There is all sorts of boundaries being breached, being very critical of others, abuse, mistreatment, disrespect, and it's up to the enabler father because the narcissistic mother is not going to change. She is going to keep on doing what she does. So it's up to the enabler father to break this cycle. But if you're a kid that turns into an adult from this dynamic, you can also break the cycle as well. And it starts with being aware of what exactly happened. What was the dynamic? Did you have a narcissistic mother with an enabler father? What did that look like? What role did you play in the situation? Were you a golden child, black sheep, scapegoat, lost child? Whatever it was, recognizing it and understanding it for what it is can be a sixth sense moment for you. But overall, it's going to be up to the enabler father, like I said, to do something different. And I absolutely help a lot of enabler fathers break this trauma bond, build a belief in themselves, and learn how to practice radical self-respect. Because that's what it takes. Practicing radical self-respect is the antidote to dealing with narcissistic people. They act as a guardrail and they protect us from their nonsense and mistreatment. But if you got this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video if you liked it, and share this video with somebody else that you think might benefit from it, and comment below if you can relate to this experience or if there's something you would like to add to it.